So you got firing solution?
Yeah, firing solution.
Very well. Firing point procedures, Sierra 2, Tube 3, single fire ad cap.
The climax of the hunt, but the atmosphere in the control center remains low-key and disciplined.
Solution's ready. Solution ready. Shoot on generated bearing. Set. Stand by. Fire.
Torpedo course 132. Runs enabled. 6,000 yards.
Take that phone shift unit running. Very well. Running normally. Shot looks good.
2,000 yards to torpedo enabled. Bearing 125, range 900 yards. Target is going 110, speed 10 knots. 125.1.
Terminal humming. Loud explosion on the bearing of Sierra 1. Got our quarry. We'll open datum and look out for any companions.
Torpedoes are not the only weapons a hunter-killer captain trains to fire, as was demonstrated during Desert Storm. No U.S. submarine had fired in combat since World War II.
I'm speaking to you next to one of the Tomahawk vertical launch hatches forward on the ship, out of which came the Tomahawk, which on the 19th of January, 1991, was fired by this ship to an unidentified Iraqi target.
The prime responsibility of command is the nuclear reactor, according to its high priest, Admiral Rickover. But a submarine's purpose involves more than just intimate knowledge of its propulsion.
Admiral Rickover made a big point of you can't get there if the power plant doesn't get you there, and that's right. But the name of the game is being able to fight a war, to win a battle. And you've got to develop your tactics.
We have chosen in the Royal Navy to continue focusing on tactics, what you do with a sharp end, and to let an extremely well-trained specialist, a technical guy, to look after the kettleback aft.
We run things a bit differently from the British, for example, where the officers in the Royal Navy are engineering specialists or operational tactics specialists, and we are trained to be good at both ends.
It doesn't mean to say that our commanding officers know nothing about nuclear power. They know a very, very great deal about it. Indeed they do. But they don't feel that they have to be technical to the degree that a United States naval officer feels he has to be. Indeed, has to be under the regime which Admiral Rickover started.
If you're on your way to a nuclear engineering exam, tradition claims this will bring you luck. Such is the Admiral's legacy. But whether propulsion or tactics are more important in nuclear submarine warfare has only been tested once. The only submarine commander to have sunk a warship with a nuclear submarine is this man.
During the actual attack, it was very much like countless other ones I'd done for practice before, both at sea on live targets and indeed in our attack teacher.
HMS Conqueror was sent to the Falklands in April 1982. The British were reacting to an invasion of their territory by Argentina. In what was to become the most controversial incident of the brief war, Reeford Brown quickly made sonar contact with a group of Argentinian warships.
I entered my patrol area to the southwest of Falkland Islands on the evening of the 30th of April, and having settled down to patrol, I quite rapidly gained detection on one of my sonars.
The General Belgrano was an aging cruiser with more than 1,000 men aboard. Much was to be made of her movements immediately prior to the attack.
We spent the whole of that night just following them from deep, which is not particularly difficult for an SSN, sending locating reports back, I think about every 6 hours or so.
The British had declared a total exclusion zone, but the Belgrano was outside it and could not be attacked. So Reeford Brown followed her and waited for instructions.
I had quite a lot of time in my cabin to actually think how I was going to conduct the attack. I mean, I felt in my own mind that at some stage, Northwood, our command back here, would actually instruct me to carry out the attack. And I chose which torpedo I was going to use. I also, in my own mind, worked out where I was going to position myself. So there was some mental preparation.
After trailing the Belgrano for more than 25 hours, the Conqueror received new orders from Whitehall. Sink it.
I was some 7 miles astern of them, and it took me about 2 hours to catch them up and work into an attacking position. I'd selected the Mark 8 torpedo to fire, and I planned to fire a salvo of 3 of those to counteract for any errors that I made in the fire control solution. I worked myself into a position of, well, when we eventually fired, I was about 1,400 yards on the port bow of the cruiser. Gave the order to fire. We heard the torpedoes run on our underwater sonar. Could hear them quite distinctly running out, and indeed heard one and then another hit. I was looking through the periscope at the time and saw a distinct cloud of smoke and flame from the first one, and then I think I saw another cloud of smoke from the second. A cheer went up in the control room, I think, when we heard the hit, and I looked around and saw actually there was a lot more people in every corner than one perhaps anticipated at attack stations. After that, I went deep and moved away to the east to just get out of the general area, because I wasn't quite sure what the 2 destroyers were going to do, whether they're going to come and take an interest in me and try and counterattack.
The Conqueror returned home to fierce debate over the decision to sink the Belgrano, echoing an earlier era when submarines were regarded as underhand and immoral.
She was a threat to the task force. She'd been steaming towards them, and I'd been watching her for a few hours beforehand, and under direct orders, I went in and attacked her. I think by doing so, although there was obviously loss of life on her, which I regret, I certainly saved considerable loss of life from the British task force. I was obviously aware that I'd actually killed, I don't know how many, and didn't know for a long time, but quite a few people, so there was a certain sense of concern that had happened. Nevertheless, as far as I was concerned, as far as the ship's company was concerned, we were at war. My immediate reactions after that was, I think the first one was one of relief that I'd actually achieved something that the ship's company and I had been trained to do over a number of years, all of us, and a sense of exhilaration that I'd actually achieved it.